Alright, continuing on, number 46. Amplitude is 3. Period is 2 pi divided by the number in front of x. 3, there's none. 4, we have a vertical shift of y equal 2. So I start with my shifts first. Y equal 2. I'm just going to center that. One, 2. Make sure you label everything clearly. And my amplitude is 3 units above it. And 3 units below it. If I am at y equal 2, and I moved up 3 units, that would be 5. And if I am at 2 and move down 3 units, y equal -1. The graphs are going to look identical. A graph of a cosine starts on the amplitude. I'm just going to label differently. And the graph looks something like this. If I take 1/4 of the period, that's pi over 2. That means this is 1 pi over 2. This is 2 pi over 2. 3 pi over 2. And 4 pi over 2 is 2 pi. And that takes care of that problem. I get to the next problem, the same deal. One, amplitude is 4. 2, period is 2 pi. Instead of dividing by pi over 2, I'm going to multiply by the reciprocal, so it's only 4 units. Very good. 3 and 4, we have a vertical shift, y equals a -2. I'm going to move to my shifts first. Y equal a -2. I'm going to label that clearly. I'm going to move 1, 2, 3, 4 units above, which is the amplitude. That's y equal 2. And 1, 2, 3, 4 down. That becomes y equal a -6. I'm going to shift this graph up just 1 unit. And there it is. And a graph of a sine starts at the origin, the new origin, runs up to the amplitude, down to the starting point, amplitude, and there it is. I'm going to take 1/4 of the period, multiply by 1/4, that's 1. So this is 1, it's really here. This is 2, this is 3, and this is 4. There it is. I'm going to cover all different combinations you could ever come across. 50. One, amplitude is 3. 2, period is 2 pi. Instead of dividing by pi over 4, I'm going to multiply by the reciprocal. That's 8 units. 3, there's none. 4, we have a vertical shift of y equals a 2. And 5, this is a negative, so we reflect the graph. I'm going to move ahead and start with my shift. Y equal 2, label that clearly. I'm going to move 3 units above and 3 units below. I am at 2. If I move 3 units above, I am at 5, and 3 units below, I am at -1. A graph of a cosine when we start with the amplitude that is reflected. And there it is. This was an 8. If I take 1/4 of the period, that's 2 units. So this is 2, 4, 6, and 8. And there it is. That's really how it works. 52 Amplitude is the number that's being multiplied by a metric function. Period is 2 pi divided by 3. We have a vertical shift of y equal 2, and it's negative, so we reflect. If I would move 2 up, I'm going to move 1, 2, 3, 4 up. That makes it a 6. And 1, 2, 3, 4 down. That makes it a negative 2. And a cosine starts at the amplitude, but if it's reflected, it's going to run backwards. So hopefully we're really getting this. There it is. That would be a 1/4 of 2 pi over 3. That is pi over 6. This is 1 pi over 6. Two pi over 6. 3 pi over 6. 4 pi over 6. You could continue on 5 pi over 6, 6 pi if you really wish. And 2 more to go, I believe, and then we move into the last phase of this section. So 1, amplitude is 9/5. 2, period is, and remember, since cosine is an even function, we're going to absorb that negative. If it was odd, I would have put it up front. So we don't do reflections in trig land. Period is 2 pi. Instead of dividing, I'm going to multiply by the reciprocal. So that is 4/3. And that's all there is. So this graph has no shift. I'm going to move 9/5 up, 1 and 4/9, 1 and 4/9 down, So this is y equal 9/5. And this is y equals negative 9/5. The graph of a cosine starts on the amplitude. So no matter what the period is, the graph is going to look just like this. The difference is going to be the labeling. This is 1/4 of the period. If I multiply this by 1/4, that's 1/3, 2/3, 3/3, and 4/3. And there it is. Last problem of this type. One, amplitude is 1/2. 2, period is 2 pi. Instead of dividing, I'm going to multiply by 8 over pi, making that 16. 3, there's none. 4, we have a vertical shift of y equal 3/2. And 5, the sign is negative, so we reflect. So I start with my shift, which is 3/2. Let's say that's 1/2, 2/2, 3/2. So this is y equal 3/2, 1.5. I'm going to move half a unit above and half a unit below. You know that? I'm not liking that. I'm going to keep the scale as is. So I'm going to go up 1, 2, 3. Here we go. No need to expand that. Leave it. Y equal 3/2. I'm going to move up a half and down a half. Half above and half below. If I am at 1.5, I moved up 0.5, that's 2, and that is 1. A graph of a sine wave starts at the origin. It should run up, but since it's upside down, that's how the graph looks like. Oops. And the period is 16. 1/4 of that is 4. That is 4, 8, 12, and 16. And there it is. That's all there is to it. Now, if they give us the graph, can you give me the equation? Well, let's see if we could do that. I notice this is a sine wave because it starts at the origin. Y equal A, it's a sine. And let's see how this works. First, I notice this runs up to 4 and down to 4. And I notice it's normal graph, meaning it's not reflected, so that's positive. I need the period. A sine, that's a full period. So this is 2 pi, 4 pi, 6 pi, 8 pi. The period is 8 pi. Isn't the period 2 pi divided by b? So I'm thinking for this graph, y equal a the sine of bx. A I found. Don't you take 2 pi divided by b to get the period? If you cross multiply, and divide by 8 pi, you will get b to be 1/4. There it is. If I look at the next problem, same deal. I would look at the next problem and say, alright, let's see. This is a sine, so y equal a the sine of bx. I need a. Well, hey, how do I find a? That's not bad because a is how far up and down you run 2. So this is twice. But I notice the graph is reflected, so it's negative. And if I cover this area, one full cycle is really 4 units. The period is 4 units, and the period is 2 pi divided by b. Cross multiply, divide by 4, and that will be pi over 2, so this is pi over 2x. If I look at number 66, I notice again, if I work from here up and down, it's 5/2, but it's starting at an amplitude, so y equal a the cosine of bx. Y will equal, since it's 5/2, and if it's reflected, that's a negative. Cosine of bx, and let's see, a period is really 2 units. The period is 2 pi divided by b, and that's 2 units. If you cross multiply, divide by 2, there it is. A bit awkward in the beginning, but when you do a few of those, you'll notice how that works. This graph is shifted. Well, shifted is not a problem. I need to find where it's centered. So if I put a line where I think it's centered, it looks as if it's centered right there. And this is y equal between -1/2 and -3/2 is -1. So I know this is y equal a sine or cosine of bx plus c. In this case, I notice it's starting at the origin, it's a sine. Well, let's see how this works. I need to find a, b, and c. C, I already know, is a -1 because the graph shifted down 1 unit. I know it's a sine. A, isn't a the distance you move above and below? If you are at 1 and you go up to -1, if you go up to -1/2 and down to 1/2, isn't that half a unit? Do you see the graph moves down, which means it's reflected? And one full cycle is actually 4 pi over 3. 2 pi divided by b is 4 pi over 3. Cross multiply. And if you divide by 4 pi, you get 6 pi over 4 pi. The pi's cancel out. That is 3/2 x. And there's the rest of your homework for this section, and that concludes this section.